Hey guys, Peter Henry here, and I just want to talk about a concept that I like to term sacred space and why it's critical to staving off anxiety and depression, and quite possibly the neglect of sacred space is the leading cause of anxiety and depression that none of us are talking about. So, what I mean by sacred space is the idea that you carve out some intentional time just for yourself. Absolutely no one around, no cell phones, no social media, just you. Now, that could be sitting alone with your cats and reading a book. That could look like going to the gym. That could look like doing some yoga solo in your living room. Could look like writing a blog post, just something. Maybe even meditation. It doesn't have to be like that, but anything where you put some time into yourself. And it's important in order for you to take that kind of space, in order for you to really let yourself connect back to yourself. Because a lot of us in our ever increasingly connected world are having a really tough time with that idea that you need to be alone sometimes, that you need to take some time in for you. We're constantly bombarded by our friends, by our coworkers, by our associates, by society itself, and by the internet. There's people trying to take the piss out of us every single day. They're telling us that, hey, you should go buy this thing, you should go do this thing, you're going to be better if you do this thing, come to this party, you're going to fuck up if you miss out. Over and over and over again, and it drains us every time someone makes a request like that, and every time we follow through with a request to go out and seek those people and be with those people when maybe we didn't really want it, when maybe we really didn't need it. And a lot of us fill our time simply because we're afraid to be alone. And I know being alone can be a little bit scary. Being completely by yourself can be a little bit scary, because it's scary because when you're alone, completely unconnected to anyone else, you have to face you unadulterated. That means you have to face your emotions, your fears, any sort of anxiety that you may be carrying around, any sort of other thoughts, maybe dreams, and face them head on and actually take a deep look at them. And a lot of us don't want to. A lot of us don't really want to go there, don't want to look at our emotions. And so we invite our friends to, come to the gym. We invite our friends to go for coffees. We invite our friends to go to parties. We constantly go seek out other people. We're constantly going on the internet, on Facebook, and connecting and seeing what people are up to. Because we're empathic creatures, meaning that we feel what others are feeling, and we're capable of feeling their emotions and their energy. So when you're intentionally out with somebody, there's an energetic connection between you and that person, and you're sharing it for the duration that you're gone. In fact, it can last longer than that, but that's another video for another day. So when you are sharing a little bit of energy and sharing space together, you're able to pick up on their anxiety, on their fears, on their happiness, on their emotions, without having to face your own. And they'll pick up on yours too, but while you're in the middle of something, while you're doing stuff together, you can't really tell what's what or where what's coming from, and that seems to be okay. That gives us the ability to push ourselves away so we don't have to look into ourselves, so we don't have to have that settle. So really what I'm saying is people and other people can be used as numbing agents in general. Even just going to a public space sometimes by yourself, like going to a mall, especially for the most empathic of us, going to a mall is like torture, because you can feel all kinds of different anxiety, all kinds of different depression, all kinds of different fears, all kinds of different happiness. It's just a big, tumultuous turmoil slew of emotions running right through you. And it's kind of tough to take, but sometimes that's what you need, or at least that's what you think you need, in order to numb yourself, in order to not feel whatever pain you're going through, in order to not feel whatever emotions and places of growth that you may be afraid to encounter. However, I will say this though, if you continue to numb yourself with your friends, with parties, with incessant socialization and the need to never be alone, that energy is still going to be inside you. Those emotions, those anxieties, they're still going to be inside you. But then they're not allowed in, but they're also not allowed out. They have nowhere to go. And so they're going to get worse. They're going to start acting like a grounded child and just start shaking and be restless and have nowhere to go. And they're going to start to get upset. And that's going to start to manifest itself subtly at first. You know, the first few hangouts with people might actually be pretty enriching, might actually be pretty good. You're thinking, oh, this is fine. But then you're starting to feel a little bit drained, but whatever. You convince yourself, I'm probably going to regret missing out, so I'm just going to go. And then the next time it gets a little bit worse and a little bit worse. You start getting a little bit more socially anxious. And then you start telling your friends, I just suffer from social anxiety. I'm just an anxious person in general. Are you? Are you an anxious person, or are you telling yourself you're an anxious person? Are you telling yourself you're an anxious person because you haven't actually sat with yourself, actually been with yourself and connected to yourself in a long time? Which is it? I don't believe there's any anxious people. I don't believe there's any depressed people. I don't believe there's any angry people, evil people, good people. They're just people. Those labels, those morals, and those things, we attach on ourselves, and we have the ability to enforce it over and over with the patterns that we make and the patterns that we choose. So the more you constantly numb your emotions with other people, with drugs, with vices, with everything else, and just not giving yourself that sacred space, the worse it gets. And the more and more convinced you are that you are actually this way. And now, I know that there are people who suffer from clinical depression, that there are people who have a very tough time with these things. Yep, it's unfortunate. Their brain chemistry is different. There's maybe a genetic marker for that or something. It just has a tough time generating those neurotransmitters all on its own. But the more they focus on how depressed and sad they are and anxious they are, that sends a signal to the brain to keep it that way. And it keeps getting worse. So unfortunately, it is kind of a self-defeating, self-prophesizing system that we have up here. So what do we do about this? What do we do about all these emotions running through ourselves? What do we do about the scary fact that we have to face it? Well, the way I like to do it is 3 things. Carve out intentional time for yourself. Take a week at a glance and take your power back. So I have a tendency to be a bit of a people pleaser, to say yes a lot when maybe I don't mean to. And one thing that's helped me a lot is taking my power back. I'll look at what I've said yes to. I'll look at all my commitments. And then once I start feeling a little bit about that commitment, when I take a look at it, I kind of put a star next to it or just kind of bookmark it in my mind. Then I keep looking. And then I judge through all my commitments that I have, which one of these can I let go? Which one can I live without? Which one of these has the greatest benefit for me to engage in? And which one of these has the least benefit for me to engage in? Which one comes with the highest cost? And then I just drop the one with the highest cost and least benefit. Usually it's going to be a last minute party after I've had a week of socializations that's going to keep me up late and I know I have to be early and I don't want to deal with resetting my sleep schedule and all that other garbage. So I'll dip out on those. Or if it's a super last minute off the cuff hangout that comes up, I'll probably dip out on those. Claim I'm too busy. Often it's true. I could be busy with better things. So that's one thing that works for me. Another great thing is take a week at a glance. So a lot of us kind of wake up and go, what the fuck am I going to do today? And then just start doing shit that's in front of them. Like, I don't know, checking their Facebook or turning on Netflix or, quickly shoving some food in their face and running to work. They don't really have a plan for their week or for their day or what they want out of their day or their week. So I urge you to try changing that. Maybe Sunday nights, grab a piece of paper, write down, the top 3 things that you want to accomplish this week. Write down one thing that if it wasn't accomplished, you'd have a shitty week. And write down a few things that you're grateful for. Write down people you'd like to reach out to this week, either through a phone call or maybe set up a meeting. And then also use that as a way to be like, I'm going to give myself, X amount of hours in the gym, X amount of time meditating, X amount of time writing, creating art by myself. And I'm going to do it away from my phone. Actually write that, because the more times you put it in your mind in advance about what it is you want, the easier it is to execute. And then when it's easy to execute something, you just kind of go do it. And before you know it, you've actually made alone time without even trying, which is really, really cool. And that gives you that little bit of recharge, because instead of connecting to someone else, you connect back to yourself. You create a feedback loop back on yourself. And just like rechargeable batteries, once you plug them back into power, they create that loop of energy and they get put back together. All those chemical piles get recompiled, the crystal lattice structure gets reordered, and everything is right again. And they can go out into the world, kick some ass, and then take a moment to recharge. And I think a lot of us are actually introverts, or a combination of introvert, extrovert. I think it's mostly a spectrum. And even though maybe we might be mostly extrovertive and get a lot out of being extrovertive and feel a lot more put back together, there's that small percentage that could be introvertive. And if that percentage is ignored, it can have pretty big impacts over time. So in review, carve out some intentional time. Say, no, this is for me. I'm doing this one for me. I'm going to go do this today. No one's going to be a part of it. I'm leaving my phone. See you. Doesn't have to be for a long time. Just has to be a little bit. Go do something for you. Treat yourself. Go get a coffee that you really want to get. Maybe get some pie. That actually helps a lot. Take a week at a glance. In fact, you can break it down to a day at a glance and write it out a day ahead of time. A few things that you want to get done that are much more pertinent. Smaller things like laundry, that kind of stuff. Or maybe it's going to be a day that you work on whatever project you want to work on. And then taking your power back. Go see where you're overcommitted, especially if you start to think that maybe you might be overcommitted or you're feeling a little stressed and a little rushed, that the rush you're in isn't your own. And then cancel. So if you like what I had to say, and you've got some good positive feedback for me, please leave some comments below. Feel free to share the video and hit subscribe. I love you so much, guys. Peter Henry out.